What's up, guys? I've got a pretty cool surprise for you today. Well, actually, if you've been with the channel for a while, this is not going to come as a surprise because we've done it a few times now, but we got a new car. Let me get this garage open. I'm going to show you guys what we've got on the trailer because I picked this thing up last night and I'm real excited to get started on it. Another 350z. Who would have thought? And to no one's surprise, this one is crashed. Let's take a quick look at it, and then I've got to show you the story on how we actually got this thing and got it on the trailer because it was a bit of a mission. May not be able to tell here, but this front spindle is completely shattered, and this wheel is held on by this ratchet strap. So the owner of this car crashed this thing about 3 weeks ago. He had it sitting in his yard with hopes to fix it. Bought a few spare parts and kind of got into it and realized he was in a little too deep. Like I said, this thing has a shattered front spindle. The front wheel is not really held on with anything. There's a bent arm or two in the front as well. Obviously the fender, the radiator support's totally shot, and there's a bent arm in the rear, actually on both sides. I think it was the tow arm that bent. Get a better idea of what's going on in the rear there. The wheel's not supposed to be like that. And it's the same story on this side. Peeking under the car here, you can see that arm right there. That arm's supposed to be straight, not bent, so easy fix. Now, before I tell you guys the plan for this car, why we've got it, and what we're gonna do with it, like I said, I've got to show you how we got this thing on the trailer because I showed up to this guy's house. It had no front wheels on it. That knuckle is totally shattered, like I said. And it was a mission to get it on the trailer. One of the hardest crash cars I've ever loaded on this thing. Now, I'm not helping myself because this trailer doesn't have a winch. It's something we should probably fix in the future. But it was kind of fun. The guy was in great spirits. I think it was his grandpa or somebody ended up helping us with the tractor, and I'll just cut to that footage now. So get to this guy's house, and here's the car on 4 jack stands in the grass, and I'm thinking, oh boy, what did I get myself into? Taking a better look at this front corner here, the suspension is totaled. Thankfully, I brought my own wheels, at least 2 of them. This wouldn't have happened otherwise. We ended up jacking the front of the car way up, backing the trailer up under the front of the car, and then the guy in the tractor really helped us kind of straighten it out.
That was a mission. It's on the trailer. Don't mind the straps.
Finally managed to get the hood open on this thing. The hood hinges are pretty beat. Because the front end of the car kind of shifted over, it actually shifted the hood, which bent both the hinges this way. So it was kind of a pain to get open. But we got it open. Now we can take a better look in the engine bay and see how far this damage really goes. Let's take a few more things off and try to get a better look really what's going on. Looking at the passenger corner here, this is where most of the damage is at. If we look close, see if I can zoom in, you can see there's a little kink in the frame rail. And it kind of starts to go off at an angle there. Now if you just look at the car head on, you can almost see what I'm talking about. Where this crash bar support bolts to, and over here, the whole thing shifted over just a little bit. Now thankfully, it's at the very front of the frame rails. So you can see this is the important part where we don't want to move. The kink is all the way up here, which is like the last, I don't know, 5-6 inches of the frame rail. Because that part of the frame is like hanging off the front of the car and it's where everything bolts to, it is pretty common for that to bend. That's what folded over in my car and what I ended up cutting off and replacing. We're not going to do that on this car. This is actually going to go over to Alex and he's going to fix it at his shop. He actually works at a body shop, so they have a frame machine. They're going to do all that, so that's going to be really cool to see. I've never messed with that. And then obviously the knuckle being the worst damage. We're going to have to get that fixed. So my plan here is to get this thing off the trailer and fix the suspension so we can at least have a moving vehicle. This thing does start up, it runs. We got a good running car. It's just a matter of getting it all fixed now. All right, hopefully you guys can hear me. I think I got the mic hooked up. So we got the trailer jacked up in the front, and we're gonna try and get this thing off. If I can remember where I put the steering wheel. All right, is it gonna roll off easily, or do I need to start it and back it off?
Let's see.
So I stopped the car about halfway down the trailer because one of the ramps had started to slip out from under me. With the rear wheels both kind of kicked off at an angle, it just did some weird stuff to the ramps. You can see that one moved a little bit, wasn't super concerning. This is the one I was watching out the window as I was driving off the trailer, and that didn't look too good. So quick fix on that, and then we get this thing actually backed off the trailer. And thankfully it wasn't too bad. I'm glad this thing runs and, well, it doesn't really drive, but drives enough. We're off the trailer in one piece, barely. We got a little sketchy. That wheel barely held on. You can see with nothing really holding that thing up, it's a little sketchy. But, you know, we made it. Just got to get it in the right spot in the backyard now so I can actually close the gate. But progress either way. Also, sorry about the mic dying in the last clip. I'm gonna get this thing tucked away in the right spot, and then we'll get it up on jack stands and take a better look at the damage and see just how far back it goes and what we've got to do to fix at least this corner, even though there's damage to like all the corners. If you're like me and like buying crashed cars, this is something you have to have. Now, I wish I had the fancy quick jack versions, but just some nice high quality vehicle dollies, so helpful. Also with the wheel in the air, you can see there's just nothing holding this guy up. But we're gonna get this dolly under there, and that way I can actually like drive the car kind of normally into its parking spot. All right, got it parked in the backyard. I pulled that wheel off so you can actually get a good idea of the damage in there. Like I said, the knuckle literally shattered, like not over exaggerating. There's not much left of it. Still got the ratchet strap holding it up. But yeah, nothing there. Nothing really there. I mean, like these are the bolts that hold the hub to the spindle. Like it completely broke around that. It's crazy. But we've got a sweet set of Tane coilovers. I think they're just the basics, but still better than nothing. All right, parts are off. Let's get a full damage report. So we've got our lower control arm. Now there's nothing terribly wrong with this, but this bushing here is pretty beat up. You can see it's kind of offset to one side, so we'll replace that. Obviously the knuckle or spindle, totally destroyed. And there's nothing wrong with this upper control arm, but we actually have brand new ones, so might as well replace it while we're in there. This other lower control arm actually seems fine. Like the bushing seems intact. So we'll leave that, and worst case swap it out if the car drives kind of weird. And the tie rods don't actually look bent, which is really surprising. So same deal. I think we'll just leave that on, see if the car lines straight. Worst case, we can swap out a tie rod down the road. Again, no surprises there. So like I said, we're gonna go to the other house with the red Crash Z that's actually crashed on the driver's side. And we're gonna pull some parts off of that, off the good side, the not crash side. So we're doing a kind of a mix and match between cars here, and I actually have quite a bit of news I'm gonna have to share with you guys, maybe in another video, about that red crash car, because we gotta get that thing on the road soon enough, and we've kind of got a change in plans, but you'll have to stay tuned for that. Can't quite show you what's over there just yet, but we're gonna get the parts off this thing, and we'll get back home and get the new car fixed. All right, got what we needed. Now let's get out of here. All right, so we've got our replacement knuckle on the bench here. Now before we put it in the car, it would be silly not to replace the one ball joint that is in here. That is a common failure on these cars. I actually need to do it on my Z as well, but it's gonna be a whole lot easier out of the car. Lucky enough that those replacement ball joints were some of the parts that were in a big old box of parts that the previous owner bought in an attempt to fix it. So we've already got the part and the knuckle's already out of the car. Might as well take a minute and swap it. That doesn't mean I'll have to swap the other side on the car, but that's not too big of a deal. I figured since we've got this out, I'm gonna at least show you how to do it in case you have a Z or G of your own. It's pretty simple. This is the ball joint in question here. As far as tools are concerned, I rented this ball joint press set or ball joint removal tool from AutoZone. Pretty simple, just a big old clamp, some little like plate top hat thingies, and a couple different size cups. And then obviously the big threaded piece goes in the clamp. So I'm gonna get this all set up and then I'll show you how it works. Okay, I almost left one important step out. This little clip here actually goes on the bottom of this ball joint. So you can use needle nose pliers or snap ring pliers if you have them. Get this guy off. Then we're ready to set that thing up and get that ball joint out of there. I've got the new ball joint here, and I just wanted to show you how I'm gonna pick what size little cup. So obviously we've got 3 different sizes. You want the size that just barely fits over the ball joint. So you can see this still slides in and out of there, but it's really close. That's what's gonna go around this. May have to like kind of maneuver it because the boot is there. Eventually you'll get it seated, and then that's what's gonna be able to apply pressure and kind of like clamp this thing out of there. And then we've got 2 of these little disc things. You can see they're like tapered for all different sizes. This is the one that's gonna go on the top. It's got one taper here, which is gonna sit on the top of this clamp. Just like that. And then all of these tapers are for the different size cups, so like it fits right in there. And then this one will go on the bottom. Same thing, it's got one for the bottom of the clamp, this little threaded piece. Threaded piece has like a little solid piece there, which this slips on, just like that. So like I said, we'll get all this set up. It's kind of a pain to deal with, but once you get it locked in, it's pretty straightforward. Okay, one other thing I forgot. This little cone adapter thing needs to come off because this little top plate thing was not sitting far enough down because it was hitting that cone like right here. So it wasn't allowing the clamp to actually like do its job and press up through. So with that out of the way, we should be good to go. All right, we got the ball joint out. It's kind of a pain. Honestly, it's easier on the car now that I've done it off the car. That was my first time doing that. I think that would be way easier if I had like a good bench vise and I was able to just clamp the knuckle in and work on it. It would probably be fine. But with it moving around on the floor so much, it's easier in the car because you can kind of lock it in place, get the tool in the right spot, and it's simple. But either way, it's done. Like I said, once I got that little cone adapter thingy off, there was plenty of room for the tool to get in there. I ended up using the bigger cup just because it seemed like it fit a little bit better. It was a little wobbly at first, but once you kind of tighten it down, it locked itself into place. And from there, it's just a matter of blasting that thing with the impact, and then the ball joint just kind of pressed right out. So we'll repeat the process in reverse to get the new one in, and then it'll be good to throw the spindle on the car.
All right, that was really annoying, but it's in. Don't forget to put this guy back on. Thankfully, it came with a replacement one, so slide that on. Still have to get the snap ring on, but I gotta find my snap ring pliers for that.
All right, it's the next day. We've got a bunch of parts that showed up. It's time to wrap this thing up. Fresh parts. We've got our lower control arm, upper control arm, sway bar end link, and then of course the replacement knuckle with the brand new ball joint in there. Let's get this together. All right, we're in business now. Got all the new arms in, brakes back on, everything is together. The sway bar is a little tweaked, so I'm just gonna pull the front sway bar off for now. We'll worry about that later. The main goal for now is to get this thing back on the ground, which means I gotta fix the rear suspension as well, but I want to at least get it on the ground, make sure it's going to align straight, and just be good enough. That way I can hand it off to Alex and he can fix the frame damage up front. And after that, this thing will be pretty much good to go, aside from some cosmetic fixes, which obviously we'll get into after the thing is straight and drives good. But for now, it's time to get this thing back on the ground, or at least the front. Gotta get the back up and replace those arms, but that's gonna be a real easy one. We're back on the ground. All right, we got the rear wheel pulled off, and I was not expecting that. I was expecting this. This is the tow arm that I knew was bent, but the spring bucket, didn't expect that. Yeah, it's a bit of a problem. Alright, well, it's clear the spring bucket is the majority of the damage here, because even with that new tow arm, the wheel is still pretty far off. So I'll get that spring bucket swapped out later. I don't have a spare on me today, but if you stay with me this long through the video, I owe it to you to at least hint at what this car is for. Now, I can't totally give it away. We do have quite a bit of plans for this thing. Obviously, it's going to get fixed. We're going to do a bit of a build to kind of make it like a streetable drift car. We've got a bunch of cool partners that are going to get on board and make this thing really awesome. Like I said, I can't give out too many details right now. Drop a comment down below and let me know what you think this is going to end up as. I will give you one hint, and that's that some of you guys watching this may end up with the opportunity to take this thing home at some point in the future. But I'm not telling you any more than that. That's going to be a wrap on this one. Give this video a thumbs up if you're excited to see another Z build. Make sure you're subscribed because, like I said, we've got a bunch of videos on that thing to turn it into a pretty cool car. I've got a lot of work to do on my own car. We're going to be competing 2 weekends back to back, so look forward for those videos. But until then, I'll catch you in the next one.